Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third virtual session organized by the Civil Service Training Institute. I hope that you are all having a wonderful time and thank you very much for joining today's session. It's really amazing to see such a big audience participating in this session, especially as we have participants from 20 different atolls of the Maldives. This is really remarkable, and inshallah, we hope that you will gain a lot of useful information through today's session as well. So today's topic of discussion is advancing together with a proactive mindset. As we are all aware, it is a challenging time for everyone, including all who are back in the office and have recently started working. There is no doubt that it will be extra challenging to continue work now. For people who are working from home as well as people who are physically back in their office. Most of us had been staying at home for days now, and this sudden transition back to work, back in the office will require a big adjustment, without a doubt. Now, I am sure we all can agree that the way forward to face these challenges is to develop a healthy growth mindset. These are times when it's extremely important to know how to be proactive at work during this new normal and to know how to instill and initiate necessary leadership skills to be better engaged in a new normal at an individual level. So to guide us and to inform us about these two important topics today, we have with us two very familiar and well-known personalities in the field of human resource management, development and leadership, Mr. Hussain Afeef and Mr. Thoha Saleem. Our first speaker, Mr. Hussain Afeef, if I may say, is currently working as the regional director at Lux Resorts and Hotels. And he is also the president of Maldives Association of Human Resources Professionals. He is a certified international speaker who has spoken in various HR summits and engagements in Indonesia, Dubai, Hong Kong, USA, UK, Malaysia, Philippines, India, Sri Lanka, and the Maldives. Mr. Afeef also holds the executive director role of the John Maxwell team for the Maldives. Our second speaker, Mr. Thoha Saleem, is the co-founder and the managing director of Pinnacle Consultancy. He has several years of teaching experience and has served as the principal of some of the biggest schools in the Maldives. For 10 years, he has led one of the leading private schools in the Maldives, in Riyazuddin International School, and achieved lots of love and respect from parents, students, and the school community. He has initiated several groundbreaking projects and programs in the education sector throughout his service and has helped in developing professionalism and personality within the Maldivian community. Mr. Thoha Saleem is more famously known for his great communication and persuasive skills within his oratory and academic peers. In short, our two speakers today are the most competent facilitators to discuss today's topic, advancing together with a proactive mindset. Without further ado, I will now request our first speaker, Mr. Hussain Afeef, to enlighten us with the first part of today's session. Importance of self-interaction in order to transform individual self to a proactive personality with a growth mindset, especially at workplace in the new normal. Mr. Hussain Afeef, please.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon, everyone. Lovely to see many participants. I believe we have over 250 connected through Google Meet. Probably a couple of maybe colleagues also joined through the Facebook Live. So thank you, CSTI, for organizing this and giving the opportunity. I always do my best to keep these sessions very interactive. So all the participants have joined with me on this. You have to participate here. So just to participate, obviously, you don't have to on your microphone or video. Obviously, if you're on the video, the bandwidth is going to be, consumed quite much. So it's better to engage in the the chat box. So I would like everyone. I have a question that I want to ask you. The question is how you're doing, and I would like you to go to the chat box and write the response. Let's take about 30 seconds for this. So go to the chat box and write how you're doing. When you're happy, super excited. Okay, yeah, yes, keep the answers coming. Yes. So here's an example of how you can interact virtually. You can keep on writing, and as I speak, and even after I finish, we have a wonderful speaker, Thoha, who's going to speak. You could write comments and that keeps the conversation going. Okay, and let me just, okay, great. So this is the topic that I'm going to be speaking today, advancing together with proactive mindset. And I believe this is a very important topic that we have chosen, for this very important, session we're doing. And I know that there's a perhaps majority of the participants are civil service, or it could be private, public. But regardless, if you are a human being, you need this learning today. So you're on the right topic today. And my objective is really to help you understand the importance of building a resilience mindset through, using the gratitude as one of the key learning and a key element of enhancing your mindset. Because if we think that this crisis is over, it's not, right? I mean, we know around the world is still struggling, and the situation we are in right now is something that none of us have been before. So it's very important to understand how can we learn, how can we get through, because if we develop a growth mindset and really build the resiliency, I think we'll get through it. There's no doubt about it. Now, I have one more question that I would like to ask so that we can get interact again. So the question is, write 2 things that makes you feel happy this day today. What are 2 things that you're happy about? I'll tell you why. I'm happy I'm alive. I'm breathing. I can do this for you. I guess more all of us would agree on that. And the second thing that I'm very happy with is, we have an opportunity like this that we can connect with hundreds of people. So go to the chat box and answer this question, please. Write 2 things that makes you feel happy this day. I will, of course, check the chat box and see your, comments, so I can see that we are very good. Somebody wrote alive and kicking. Very good. Looks like there's a great energy there. I spoke to my family, had been a good mother, been alive and having a supportive family. Yes, keep that going, right? Good. You see, if you're a participant in an online event, this is a very simple way that you can get engaged. I mean, everybody can read your comments, and and all the comments are good. And if you even don't like something, you can write it. So let's actually in fact continue with the slide. So we wrote a lot of things there, right? We wrote, for example, we're happy we're alive. I think we're all happy, and that's something we should be grateful always. But also, many of us now are back to work in some form. Still, a lot of us do work or projects from home. And I'll tell you, I don't think that I've ever stuck in one place in the last 10 years this long. Since February, I've never gone out of the resort. I'm actually right now in a resort in South Ariato. If you don't know the location, it's near Mamigili. So that's where I am for 4 months. The last 10 years, this is the first time I've been stuck in one place, and I find it very helpful and grateful. I improve my fitness and healthy eating habits. I'm working on a book. 80% of the book is completed during the last 4 months. There's a lot of good things, and I included this slide just to let you know that after all, having to go and work from home, it was probably not a big thing. I'm sure many of you on this call would have said before the pandemic, when when we talk about work from home and flexibility, you would say, well, no, it's not going to happen. It's not possible. Right? And that's what we created ourselves. We said, well, it's not possible. But you see how it happens. Majority of places, they did work, right? So the point again here is, I think if we keep ourselves, start thinking and, build that agile mindset, we find different ways how we can get things done. This is a picture from 1918. I don't think anybody on this call was born. Probably many of our parents and, in fact, many people in the world, they didn't experience the last pandemic, right? And obviously back then, it took a couple of years to spread this around the world because, the lack of transport and less movement of people. And you notice that the current pandemic of COVID-19 spread quite fast, right? I mean, in just about 3 months, it was everywhere in the world, right? And millions of people. It already passed 10 million now, and you can see the world's one of the world's biggest population. India is right on the second now, third now, and Brazil, and so it's not getting any better. But I included this story to tell you that we're going to get out of this. There's no doubt about it. Things are going to get better. It may take a couple of months, years, in fact, but the world is in a better place than it was in 1918, because today we're better in terms of technology, in terms of the connectivity, in terms of reaching out to other people, in terms of traveling, in terms of medical facilities. So things are going to definitely be better. So we can't really compare with the 1918, and now we can of course compare in terms of the pandemic and its scale and how it spreads. But if we are proactive and if we have this mindset, we can get through. So I really wanted to give you some insights and stories and really set your mindset, because I have 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes, rather than giving you a specific concept that you can apply, I thought I want to inspire you to understand the potential that is within you. And here's my another question to you. Many of you were probably on home confinement or lockdown or whatever the term we use. Did you took this crisis as a problem, or did you see it as an opportunity? What's your response? So I would like to see your response. Please go to the chat box and write down. And very good. Somebody wrote both. Perfectly fine. You can choose that as you can choose that as an opportunity, or it can also be as a problem. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So you keep that coming, and I will. And I asked this question because just to let you know, this is a choice we have. I took this as an opportunity. I've experienced a lot of crisis, personal crisis, professional crisis. I experienced the tsunami that hit the most in 2004. I experienced the financial crisis in 2008 when I was in Dubai, where we have to actually literally lay off about 1,500 people from the same company that I used to work. But I took this as an opportunity, and here is why. Because if we have this mindset of effectiveness, agility, and you put the growth mindset in between around it, every great thing that has happened in the world, it happened because of a crisis or something happened. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It can be just anything, right? So, for example, I'll just give a simple example. Our national airline, the Maldivian, they don't do cargo transportation as the level as they used to do before. They're doing an amazing job in the cargo transportation. I'm sure it will be one of their key business even post-pandemic. So I have 3 stories I want to share very quickly, if I may. You probably know Uber. They're everywhere around the world, and Uber is obviously struggling due to the pandemic too, because the private cars are not on the road. But do you know how Uber started? It was not just because the founders had money, right? It was in November 2008 when one of the founding partner of Uber, David Plouffe, who was actually the campaign manager for President Obama in 2008, after he completed the campaign, Obama won, he went to San Francisco, a couple of meetings, and midnight, November 2008, right towards the end of November, he came out of, around 1 o'clock from his apartment. And he's got a couple of friends with him, and, they wanted to go and have a dinner in a restaurant a little bit far from, downtown. They couldn't get a taxi because the taxi did not come, or the taxis weren't available. They got so frustrated, and they called one of their friends and said, "Could you come and give us a lift?" So the friend car came. They went to a restaurant while they were eating together. They said, what we should do is tomorrow night, we should put all our private cars, we should create a group and tell our friends, use our cars, see if there's demand. Rest is history. They put their private cars the next night. That on the road, they got trips. They realized there's a business. That was the form of Uber. You see, it came through a crisis because they did not get a taxi. And here's another example. This is not necessarily a crisis. You probably know this gentleman. He's a good friend of mine. He's a pilot at the Maldivian. Obviously the flights were grounded. They can't travel as much as they used to. So what? he took the time, start making these face shields during his off time, so he could, start, could make some money, but also serve the community, right? If that didn't happen, probably he may not do it, right? So there's always this two side of it. And the key point here, as I share these stories, I want you to understand, how does these stories relate to you, right? It may not relate to you right, right it what you do, but what can you learn from this, right? I know Thoha is going to speak a lot about leadership, but I put this picture for a reason. I mean, everyone on this call, you will agree with me that Nelson Mandela is a great leader. But if I give you another example, for let's say maybe I take Fidel Castro, or maybe Adolf Hitler, or even the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, or maybe the Bill Clinton of the United States, you will not agree. Universally, Nelson Mandela is agreed as one of the world's best leader, right? Why is that? It's not because of who he is. It's what because of what he did following Nelson Mandela's return from jail, and what he did in South Africa to bring the best to the people of South Africa and to the world. Because when you are in a crisis, you have two choices. He had the choice to get out of the prison and go and start a revenge. He didn't do that, right? He had a totally different mindset, and he said, what can I do beyond this prison point that can make the lives of my people better, and that can make the lives of the world better, right? This is why not every one that we see may perhaps be a great leader, right? But for some it may be, but universally, here's a great example. And I want to ask you a question again, just to get a bit of interaction going in here. How many of you like pizza? Please write on the chat box. How many of you like pizza? And I'm not promoting pizza. I know it's not very healthy, so please don't take my word that you think pizza is. So go to the chat box and see how many of you love pizza. Good. Okay, I see that. I like. Okay, CST, I want to put all these names together and send some pizza to them. All right, but my story around here is really not just about whether you like pizza or not, but it's really around this topic of something amazing that was done by a wonderful pizzeria in downtown. This is an example of very far from the North America, United States, in Chicago, and it's a very personal story because I happen to know the guy who operates this, and they did this. So they used to serve pizza slices, and during lunchtime in downtown Chicago, the whole place is full. They used to serve for hundreds and thousands of people. Pandemic came, they closed the shop, right? Everybody has, everybody who was working there, they almost lost their job. But the owner said, no, I'm going to do something different. He was proactive. And in the pizzeria place, you have this oven that you make the pizza, right? So what he did was that he bought this shield material, and he started making shield out of a pizza oven. Can you believe? By doing that, he could keep the jobs of every single one. You see, here's my first message to you. Do what you can with what we have, right? That is the number one strategy, the number one mindset, the number one proactive approach that we need to have to get through not just this crisis, anything in our life. Do what you can with what you have, right? So take note of that, please, everyone. But what we see in our community is different, right? I mean, we see in our community a lot of, blame and shame, and things go wrong. We often talk about, I will give an example, and this relates to all of us, right? I remember on the 16th of April, the capital city was locked down. I know this goes way, way beyond, right? But here's my point to all of you and the learning. 16th of April, we went to lockdown. Across the capital, if we were complaining, the gas was not delivering on time, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's so much challenges, and we were all complaining. Today, and even after 72 hours a week of also lockdown, we saw very less complaint. You know what happened? The adjustment time. In life, personal, professional, We always need the adjustment time. So the second second point for you is in the growth mindset of today's session, we all need to learn how to adjust to the new reality. If we don't, we're going to struggle. If we struggle, we're going to have, it's going to create a lot of stress, unnecessary stress, anxiety, and all these other issues will come, right? But we have a control. It's a choice we all have, right? And we have a choice here. We can either evolve or we can repeat what we keep on doing. We can go back and start, we can just do new things or just repeat as what we used to do before. But I encourage all of you that you should actually become a person of evolving, getting out of this and developing your mindset of what new things I can do, what new ways I can approach, right? Because if we don't do it, it's going to come back to us. And my third message to all of you is in terms of this proactive approach of the growth mindset to develop yourself is that you need to take care of yourself. We need to learn how can we take care of ourselves, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of other people. You can't serve other people. I mean, if you don't smile to yourself, and if you wake up in the morning, you go to the mirror, and if you can't smile, you can't smile to the other people. So I encourage all of you, as my third message to all of you, take care of yourself. And more importantly now, right, pay attention to your health, pay attention to what you eat, pay attention to what you drink, pay attention to all the other things that you do, right? Because all these things are going to help you to either develop, evolve, or repeat what you keep on doing before, right? Because the thing is that post-pandemic and post this crisis, if we cannot change our mindset and keep on doing exactly what we used to do before, it's a total waste. And we may never get a chance like this in our life, right? So, and as my last key message here, I want us to really take a close look at this slide and read what is there. What you choose to focus on will grow. In your mindset, what you feed every day. For example, I mean, if you have been to one of my sessions, you must have heard this before, but this is such an important message here. If you come to work, let's say if you come to work today and somebody asks you, how are you doing? And you say, tired. And you said the same answer to 20 people during the day, at the end of the day, you will be exhausted, right? This is how it works, because what you feed in your mind is what you're going to believe. What you're going to believe is what you're going to do. What you're going to do will have an impact on other people. So if you want to, be loved, give more love. If you want to be worried, well, there's a lot to do, but I wouldn't choose that one. If you want to self-doubt, right? For example, you have an idea and you want to share with someone, but you are saying to yourself, but what are they going to say about my idea? Well, that's the least thing you have to worry about. You have an idea, you believe, go and share it, right? Don't wait for someone's approval. Too many people are waiting for approval from too many people, and nothing gets done. This is a problem we have across this nation, and we as individuals who are listening to this call today, we need to take action, because if we take action, things will change, right? Anxiety, there's a lot out there, but if you take care of yourself, and if you focus on taking care of yourself, taking care of other people, your family, your loved ones, the colleagues, everybody else, the community you live in, you are going, in return, you're going to get the same thing. So as I complete this, slide show, and as I complete this, I just want to share one message with all of you. And we perhaps used to hear this word, the statement, we're in this together. And I wanted to explain you that through, when you define it through growth mindset, it really means how you behave has an impact on me, and how I behave will impact you. Right? So if you go to workplace, please follow the guidelines, the instruction. I mean, be a proactive person, right? Don't wait for somebody to say to you something to do, right? Study, learn, and just do it. So I hope that you enjoyed my presentation as I shared these stories. I know it's very quick, and I try my best to keep the 20 minutes because I mean, I could speak more than 20 minutes, as you can see. But hopefully you enjoy. So as I come to the end of my slide, like you see, I already stopped sharing it. I would like you to go to the chat box and write down one thing or a message that you got from my presentation before Safa takes over and hand over to the next speaker. So let's take 60 seconds, right? Go ahead and write down, what did you learn? What are you going to do? Or I have a question for you, which is, are you going to evolve or repeat because of what you learned today? Good, good. Evolve. That's what I like to hear. So are you going to evolve or repeat? Good. Yeah, are you going to evolve or repeat? Because remember, it's a choice you have, and nobody's going to do it for you, and only you can do it. All right? So thank you all the participants. I will stay on the line, on the call after Thoha. I think there'll be some questions. So over to you, Thoha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Afeef. It was I'm not surprised at all. It was really a very interactive and really an interesting and informative session. Thank you so much. From what you have said, I think you are highlighting very much on taking this opportunity to develop, to evolve, and to invent, basically to think very positive about this situation. This actually, your presentation reminded me of a children's book that I read very often, Beautiful Oops by Barney Sandberg. He has highlighted on thinking this as an opportunity to make something beautiful. So I think that is what you basically was trying to say, that think positive and try to be creative and don't think negative, right, about the whole situation.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Yeah. Before we move on to the next part of the session, I would like to remind all the participants to post questions relevant to Mr. Afeef's area and Ms. Thoha's. Please use the chat box to write the questions. And people who are watching this session live on Facebook can write their questions in the comments. At the end of the second part of this session, the speakers will attempt to clarify the answers. So now I will request today's second speaker, Mr. Thoha Saleem, to navigate us through the next part, which is importance of instilling and initiating necessary leadership skills for better engagement at work in the new normal at an individual level.
Thank you, Safa.
Let's continue.
Well, good afternoon to all. And thank you, CSTI, for having me as a speaker today. And it's a pleasure for me to share some thoughts with the participants. I know a lot of leaders are listening to this session, and it is indeed a great honor for me to share some thoughts with you all. I think Safa has already mentioned the topic for the day, and I'll be talking about leadership and how we can actually be the leader that we aspire to become. And like Afeef mentioned just now, a crisis is helps us to invent new things, and there is a necessity for us to invent things at this time because of the pandemic. So people often ask this question, who is a leader? And I believe all of us are leaders, whether we are students, teachers, parents, subordinates, professionals, laymen. So we are all leaders, and this is the right opportunity for us to show the leadership skills we have, because people do say that necessity is the mother of invention. The sixth President of the United States, John Quincy Adams, once said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." So it tells us that we don't have to hold a position. I'm a leader. If what we do make people dream, make people aspire to do more, then we are certainly leaders. When we talk about leadership, we always think that these people hold positions, whether they are emperors or presidents or CEOs or managing directors or people at the helm of big companies. Then when you look at the history of any nation or the world, you'll come across people with a lot of power, influence. And then when we talk about leaders, we get an image of powerful, dynamic individuals who command victorious armies, direct corporate empires, shape the course of nations. And then our parents and adults do read stories of a lot of mythical characters where we consider as folklores. And even in these stories, people often talk about characters that hold this power, influence, and also in the end, they were able to achieve the unthinkable, the impossible things. Here is one great leader, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Michael Hart, astrophysicist of United States, wrote a very interesting book, which was also a bestseller. And according to him, the #1 position is held by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So we have many other leaders who have been the change makers of the world. And for the convenience of the time, I just included some. Mr. Afeef has mentioned about the leadership qualities of Nelson Mandela, and it's good that he mentioned about him, because otherwise my slide with these leaders would be incomplete without him. So if you talk about Mahatma Gandhi, the non-violence movement, Mao, the industrial revolutionist of China and the father of China, and Martin Luther King, who has been an activist fighting for the lives and also fighting for the freedom of Black people. So these people changed the world. People followed them blindly. These people inspired so many people, and we still see people following their footsteps. So these are people whom we call leaders. Likewise, there are leaders who had great empires. Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, these people have been having a lot of impact to the world even today. And then people still talk about these great leaders, the attributes of them, the characteristics that they possessed, and how we learn from their leadership qualities. On the other hand, we have leaders who are very undistinguished, like Hitler, the Claudius Caesar. These people came to the power because people followed them, people liked them, but they used their leadership skills, their influence, their power for wrong reasons. And then in the end, I think a lot of people conspired to their demise. So this is how some of the leaders became powerful leaders and in the end left the world as very unpopular people. Now, one of the questions that was given was, are leaders born or made? I really think that there was a time that people were thinking that leaders are born people. We can't just train people as leaders. And then so many theories have been created. People study this topic. And great man theory basically talked about these leaders' characteristics and their influence to their followers. And then traits theory again followed the footstep of great man theory. And then there was a time around 1950 that people actually thought, I mean, this is not done. They did so many studies, they did so many research, and eventually found it inconsistent and inconclusive because they felt that the successful leaders, the effective leaders, not only the people who are born to be the leaders, there are also people who can aspire to become leaders, and then possess these skills through the exposure, trainings, and many other methods. So 1950s to 1980s, I think people were trying to talk about the behavioral aspect of the leader, and that's how it is. And then if we keep on talking about theories of leadership, there's no end to it. There are so many theories, like fashion, leadership theories keep changing. And then anyone who attempted to write a definition for the leadership, I think must have got a new definition for it. And I would say any one leadership theory is not sufficient for any particular situation, because it's more complex than what we think. And then, like you hear from people, I have noted some theories here. There are so many other theories also. If you talk about the theories like great man theory, traits theory, autocratic, democratic, relationship-oriented, task-oriented, high leaders, servant leadership, participative, transformational, charismatic, transactional, laissez-faire, situational, continuity theories. These are the theories that we learn when we do certain leadership courses. But the most important thing is that what we use in our real life, the definition of leadership is very important. Learning about these leadership skills are very important, because theories help us to guide the behavior. Without reading these books, without reading about these theories, it's very difficult for one to understand whether one is doing it the right way. Otherwise, we will be doing it the trial and error way. So that's not the way to go forward. So that's the reason why I just highlighted some theories here. And I'm not going to go into the details of these theories. Osborne and his colleagues stated that a radical change in perspective is necessitated to go beyond the traditional leadership thinking. It's very right, because things have changed, the time has changed, and we know that we can't just simply wait for the establishments to do everything for us. Technology has been part of our life. Climate changes have been affecting our life. Food security, water security, and all things have been affecting the lives of people. And we no longer have time with us on our side to wait for people to do things for us. So that is where these leadership theories and the knowledge that we gain from these things can be applied into the situations like what we are in now. And if you really look at the comparison of traditional leadership and the new genre of leadership, you may very well understand why people are moving away from the traditional leadership. I'm not saying we don't have takeaways from these leadership skills of traditional ones. There are so many things we are still learning from traditional leadership, and that's very important even at present. But it has to have a different perception, and we need to have it as context-bound, focus on mutual power and influence, and emphasis should be given on the collective and collaborative efforts. It has to also promote learning, empowerment, and growth, and it has to be process-oriented rather than content-centered, and it has to be transformative, proactive, and cognitive-oriented. So the new genre of leadership are at 4 levels. Namely contextual, organizational, individual, and empirical levels. I'm going back to Osborne's leadership definition and why he wants it to be changed. He says a radical change in perspective is necessitated. Why? If you can look at the list on the right side of the slide, you know why. Because the environmental context, because the new economical issues, the humanistic changes, globalization issues, technological revolution, innovation sprees, unpredictable competitive landscapes, knowledge explosion and mushrooming of multinationals. These issues are forcing people to look at leadership as a different way than what we are seeing it now. And look at this slide, the issues that we have right now. I mean, it may be some issues, not all the issues, but the most pressing ones right now we are facing are so many that a government or a head of state or few ministers would not be able to do it. So we need more leaders. As I said before, everyone is a leader. We need to step up and show people that we are the leaders. We are not waiting for people to come and tell us what to do. So we have so many to make sure that we are addressing the issues that the world is facing right now. So the water security issues are there, climate change is there, inequality, extreme weather conditions. Right now we are facing that on some islands as well. So the poverty issue is there because of the pandemic. A lot of us are actually having this issue of getting a job and feeding for their kids. So we can step up and save a life. We can help people to adjust to the new normal. So we can lead on these fronts. So the unemployment, again, is a problem for the world, is a problem for us even now. Lack of education. We don't have the issue of lack of education in the Maldives right now, but whether we are doing the education the right way, whether the educational point of view that we have right now is relevant to the times and the changes that we are seeing can be a question that we can ask. So plastics is again another issue: overfishing, pollution, drought, religious conflicts, war, crimes, migration, corruption, cybersecurity, and all these issues are there. And we all can do our part in these issues. Look at these people. When I go back to the previous question, who is a leader? I think these kids, I mean, Greta Thunberg is a 17-year-old girl. We know about her, and the world has so much has to be so much grateful to the work of Greta. Her efforts are very much appreciated by people, and she has a huge follower base, like 16 million people following her. And then these kids are stepping up and helping the world to become a better place, a livable place. Why can't we do it in our workplaces? Why can't we do it as individuals, as fathers, as teachers, as principals, as people who are running cafes, restaurants, and schools? So we have a role to play. We can very much adapt to the situation and step up. Look at this gentleman, Boyensland, at 16, during a fishing trip in Greece, he discovered massive amounts of plastics in the water. And 2 years later, the Dutch inventor launched his non-profit ocean cleanup. And then eventually, the group has raised over $31.5 million in donation to help achieve Boyan's goal. So these are leaders. You don't have to have a positional power or a designation to call yourself a leader. So we can bring a change to the issues that we are facing right now. Melati and Isabel, they were actually inspired by Rwanda's ban of polythene bags in 2008. And then they started the work, and they were eventually able to help Bali a plastic-free nation. So this is what we are talking about. This is what we are looking for, and we can certainly inspire people. We can certainly inspire our kids, our students, by showing that we are the change that we want to see in them. And Malala, an interesting topic to discuss in detail, but because of the time availability, I think we can't just go into the detail. And we know how she became a Nobel Prize winner. She has been role model for many. And then this is one person that we can be inspired. And then the last I have before I conclude, the question is work engagement and importance of accelerating engagement at workplace is possible at this time. Yes, very much possible. So for that, I think we need to do a few things, whether we are the subordinates or the subordinates of our offices or workplaces. We have to show people that we are morally right in the approaches, and we keep the relationships intact with the people that we meet at our offices and workplaces. And then we need to continuously motivate people. You don't have to be the head of the organization to motivate people. It's just pat on shoulder or pat on someone's back and then say something nice to motivate the person. It's a good job. You're doing wonderful. So these things actually help the colleagues to get motivated in what they are doing. And then a psychologically safe place. I know, especially at this time, people have a lot of difficulties. You may see your friends, your colleagues, or even your boss, or even people who are working in the next section having certain difficulties. They may not be able to express what they're feeling. So a kind of listening can help them to feel better. So we should be able to help them by listening to them rather than giving them a lot of ideas to solve their issues. It's best we listen to them and then making sure that they have always people who are willing to listen. And then reward and recognition. Sometimes it can be a word, or it can be a letter, or just a message or something. It don't need to be a financial reward or anything. But at this point of time, I think that's also an important thing that we can talk about. And empowering. And as leaders, I think we don't think that we should be doing everything. And empowerment is very much part of 21st century perception. And the last thing I would like to share with you is what we could do as individuals to help our performance level and adjust to the new normal. I would say it's about self-awareness. It's about emotional intelligence. Unless we know ourselves, unless we know the shortcomings of ourselves, we would not be able to bring any change to the behavior. If we cannot change our behavior, then the result of what we do will continue happening. So like Afeef said, evolve or repeat. So if we keep on doing what we have been doing for a long time, the result is the same. Unless we evolve, unless we learn from our mistakes and issues, we will not be able to do that. So for that, the best thing is to understand self. And then with that comes paradigm and principles. And paradigm is a set of habits that we have been doing for a long time, and then we become what it is after a repeated behavior. So that's how we look at things. That's how we think about things. So to change the paradigm, self-awareness is very important. To understand oneself, one has to know oneself. And then personality versus character. And a lot of times we attend workshops, a lot of times we attend talks and sessions and learn to change the personality, the way we talk to people, the way we receive people. So all these things actually are part of cosmetic changes, which is not going to last long. So we have to work on the character. So when you talk about the character, we are talking about the universal habits, universal phenomenon, like courage, like kindness, like taking care of each other, talking nice to people and taking care of oneself, and all these things are the things that we consider as private victory. You have to have a vision of your life. You have to know where you want to go in life, whether you want to leave your legacy behind as a successful person, as somebody who had contributed to the betterment of the world. So it's up to us. So there has to be a kind of vision for us, whether we are an individual, whether we are somebody who has been working as a subordinate of a company. Everyone should be having a vision. Even as a family, we should be having a vision. So without which, we will not be able to achieve much in our lives. Personal victory and private victory has so much to do with physical activities also. Without taking care of our physical dimension, the physical intelligence, without involving ourselves in physical activities, even during the lockdown, even during this particular moment, whether we are able to go out or not, whether we have a very small apartment to run around or do some exercises, it's very important for us to exercise every day and make sure that we are fit and we are able to release all these toxic waste from our body as much as possible. So even at this time, to accelerate the work and the engagement in the work, it's very important for us to involve ourselves in physical activities. So that's all from me. And if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thoha. I believe Thoha Saleem has described well what leadership is, touched on the theoretical aspects of leadership, and used various examples, wonderful examples actually, of great leaders to make us understand how to be a great leader. It doesn't matter where you are born, what you are born with, or what age you are to be a great leader. So he has also highlighted on work engagement and why it is important to accelerate engagement at workplace and the necessary leadership skills needed by an individual at a personal level. I'm sure this has been a very, very informative uh, session until right now. So we have some questions that we received from the audience, and I will, our facilitators will be answering the questions that we have received. The first question is for Mr. Afeef. The question is, how do you personally take this pandemic as an opportunity?
Yes, it's a very good question. I take this as a personally as a huge opportunity for a couple of reasons. Because when you keep on doing what you used to do most of the time. In my case, for example, I have always a full manage quite a lot of team members in our properties in the Maldives and across other areas where required. And we always have to kind of race against the time in terms of getting things done. And when it quiets down, obviously it gives you time to really focus on things that you always wanted to do. There are a couple of things that I always wanted to do. I always wanted to improve and develop on my writing. I started writing a book a year ago. It didn't really progress much because of the last year has been quite a lot of traveling for me internationally, so I wasn't really much in the Maldives for most part of the year. And so this time has given me time to really sit down and walk around it, and now I know exactly which part I need to focus on the book. And also it has given really me the time to focus on myself, what I care about, and my health, and also really focus around the things within our community, which I refer to my workplace. Also, connect with the family and have a better, I suppose, a relationship, and really keep on growing it. And and again, then working, I think a lot of the time I've, put effort on myself just to really see, how can I be a better, leader to other people, what do I want to focus post pandemic. So strategizing a lot of things and planning a lot of actions has been one of the best time that I see this as an opportunity. And what I do may not be applied to the others. It all depends on what matters to us and what's key to us. So I think that's really how I take it.
Thank you, Mr. Afeef. I'm sure we can all relate it at a personal level too, right? Thank you so much. So the question for Mr. Thoha is that we often see even the most effective and efficient leaders fail. So the question is, what do you think is the main reason for these highly effective and efficient leaders sometimes, who fail in different things?
Thank you for the question. That's an interesting one as well. I think the issue is with the situation. Unless we are able to adapt to the situation, unless we change our leadership style and approach depending on the situation and depending on the followers that we have, we can't take one theoretical aspect as one size fit all kind of thing. So a leader should be able to adjust and adapt to the situation and to the people available. I think if that is the kind of approach that you use, you would hardly see as a failure. And then I don't know what context the question was asked. If the context was given, then I would be able to contribute it to it more than this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I believe your answer is very clear. And before winding up the session, I would like to give the opportunity to say something very briefly as a final remark for both our speakers. Well, you can start, Mr.
Thank you, all the participants. And by participating in this session, you are just conveying us all that there's no end to learning. And 21st century requires people to learn all the time, every time, as lifelong learners. The more you learn, the more ignorant you feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we move on to, we just got another question from one of the participants for Mr. Afeef. Could you please briefly tell us how you maintain a positive mindset in different situations?
Yes, I always look at the situation. I see this is where I am right now. What can I do about it? If I can't do something about it, I just say, okay, well, there's nothing I can do at the moment, but what can I do to control my emotions towards it? Because that's something I have, that's something I can control. So I basically change the way I respond and react to the situation physically if I can't do anything about it. Because there are times where we are in and we can't just physically do things, for example. For example, it could be a situation whereby, you put a health and safety procedure in your office where everybody who enters to the office, have to, sanitize their hand. You saw a colleague entered without doing, and you don't want to scream and shout. But what can you do, right? I mean, you could speak to the person nicely, you can organize, and so it's all about analyzing the situation. So in my case, I really don't want to have negative energy flowing in my body, because that just weakens my immune system. It's not healthy at all. My brain, So I look at it and say, what can I do personally? Personally, what I can do is control my emotions and control how I react. So I would most of the time choose, I would say, positive reactions towards it, and it's very healthy too.
Thank you. And would you like to add something as a final remark, please?
Yeah, I do. I want everybody who is listening to this to take a note of this question. Who do you want to become, as a result of this crisis we are in now? Write that question somewhere. The question is, who do you want to become as a result of this pandemic? And then take a piece of paper, write down who do you want to become. You want to become somebody who is more healthy. You want to become someone who is a great leader, like Thoha gave a great, very short and sweet, yet a very powerful insight about foundation of what we should believe as leaders. And I think that was very well done. So I also learned from that thought. So very good. And you know, you want to become a great leader. You want to become a more healthier person. You want to become a better servant to your community. You want to become a better husband, a better wife, a better partner. Write that down and work towards it. Because when you learn something, like we, you know, both Thoha and I already mentioned about this, you are in this session today. You spend 60 minutes, right? Don't let this go, right? Take notes, reflect on it today, and when you wake up tomorrow, what are you going to do about it, right? And I think that is really, so the question is, who do you want to become as a result of this crisis? And you know, if you change the way you do things, and if you be more proactive, I think your life is going to be 100% better. But don't wait for other people to do things for you. Do something about it yourself, because there's a lot you can do. So that's my closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Afeef. I myself am very motivated too. I believe I have learned a lot from this session as well. Thank you so much, both Mr. Saleem and Mr. Hussain Afeef. Thank you so much. Well, now we have come to the end of the session. On behalf of Civil Service Training Institute, all the participants and myself, I would like to thank today's speakers, Hussain Afeef and Mr. Thoha Saleem, for this wonderful session. It was really informative, as I said before, and extremely productive too. I'm sure the participants of today's session and viewers from our Facebook page would have got very insightful perspective and educational takeaways to develop their mindsets to be proactive in the workplace in the upcoming days. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum.